What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. I'm your host, Leon, and that's my co-host, Rene, right there. And today we have someone that used to be in the car business. He's called, well, I don't know if I call him Royce the Closer. I don't know what name he goes by, what he's going to go by.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he's going to give us some information, some valuable information. He was in the car business for 20 plus years, maybe 25, but we're going to let him, if I got that wrong, he's going to clear it up. So let's go ahead and get to it. Let's bring him on.
Yeah.
What's going on, Royce?
Good. How y'all doing this evening?
Good. We go ahead, Renee.
Do we call you Royce the Closer?
I have been Royce the Closer. I've been Royce the Voice. I've been Rolls Royce. Oh. So all of the above, whichever makes you remember me.
I like it. All of them.
Yeah, I like all of them. I'm going to call you Royce the Closer. So today we are talking about Royce being, I guess you could say, a mediator or third party or negotiator. Yeah. Royce, the negotiator.
Yeah.
And is it a negotiator or would it be a broker? Or what's the difference between the two?
So, really, a broker is someone that brings customers to a specific dealership in order to buy a car, and they just get a fee for it, like giving a dealership a lead.
Okay.
That's really kind of like a broker, but a broker traditionally doesn't get involved in the negotiation. You still deal with the salesperson, go through that full buying process that can take hours on end. Mm-hmm. So that would be the primary difference. And like Leon kind of mentioned, I'll be kind of negotiating for you, being the go-between, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Royce, he brought to me his idea that he had. I said I would have him on here on the podcast, the Impel Forward Podcast, to talk about it. And I ran the question on social media. Had a couple people say yeah, a couple people say yeah. Somebody put LOL, yeah, right. So we go talk about it. So how did you get the idea to be a negotiator for people that's looking to buy a car?
I guess initially it kind of came up from a little bit of the frustration that I know that people have with the buying service. So funny thing, you mentioned root canal. You can look at surveys on Gallup polls. I think they had one on MSNBC at one time, and they just polled 100 people and they asked them what is the worst thing or the thing that they dread doing the most. Mm-hmm. Having a root canal was number one. Going to buy a car was number two. Number three was going to a car dealership to get your car serviced. So they feel they get taken advantage of. They don't like to waste the time. They don't like to be involved in a high pressure environment. Everything associated with buying a car if you bought one at a dealership recently. So that was kind of the impotence for me saying, hey, you know what? I have so many relationships in the business. I've been in over 100 dealerships doing training in 43 states in the country. I have been a manager in the car business since 2009. And the knowledge coupled with the relationships are something that I'm attempting to leverage and provide a service that could be beneficial to a segment of the population.
Right. Yep. Now, for clarification, the root canal thing we was talking about behind the scenes, so that's where that came from for the audience.
But I mean, it's still, it's part of the conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted them to know where that came from, the root canal thing.
So tell me, I guess, give a little bit of your background. Leon kind of gave in his bio of you, he kind of gave us the gist, but kind of give us a background. You talked about you've built relationships with different dealerships and people around. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I guess I'll go from zero and make it more of a shorter story than a longer story.
Okay.
But I sold my first car in March of 1998 in St. Augustine, Florida. for Jack Wilson Chevrolet as a 21-year-old kid, and started making $1,000 a week selling cars. Dropped out of college because I could make more money doing that than I would have with my major that I was graduating with at that time. I've since went back to college and gotten my degree, just for clarity standpoint. And so sold cars for about 7 years straight in North Florida, and then moved down to South Florida, in Miami, Florida. Got out of the business for 2 years and did mortgages. And the older people our age will remember, October of 2008 happened, and essentially the housing market fell overnight. So I left that in October of 2008, and then I got back in the car business in 2009. And once I got back in it, on a manager standpoint. So at one point in time, I worked for my friend's company, where you guys have probably gotten those invitations in the mail to a car dealership, where come by the dealership, you can win this, you can win that, because we're having this big sale, right? So I was an event manager for that, and it was traveling all over the country. Essentially, I just closed car deals is basically all I did. The mail got you into the door. We had somebody that checked you in, what we called a greeter. And then from there, if you showed any interest in buying a car, you entered into the buying process. And I would come in when there was any objections, any massaging that was needed.
So were you like a finance manager?
Not at that point in time. No.
Okay.
At that point in time, I was just, my title was an event manager at that
Okay.
point. So I did that for 3 years. And then how I got into finance was, it's a business called JM Family. If you look up JM Family, they're a Fortune 500 company. I started with them in May of 2014. That year, or the prior year, in 2013, JM Family generated $13.8 billion in revenue. The NFL generated $13 billion. Okay, so they were a behemoth of a company. So I became what they call an F&I specialist, finance and insurance specialist. That's what F&I stands for. Essentially, they had over 5,000 dealer partners. So every Monday I would get on a plane, fly to a dealership, and I would train their finance managers on process and compliance. We would demonstrate, taking deals, showing them how to do the process, how to pitch a customer, for lack of a better word, how to upsell product, how to build value in product, how to explain product in a legal, ethical, compliant manner. So that job, like I said, I got on a plane every Monday. I flew home every Friday. So with that, between working with my friend Mike, being an event manager, and then being an F&I specialist with JM&A, I literally went in.
Oh, I think we have lost Royce, but he'll come back. He's froze right now. Let's see.
That's a lot of like flying and traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. He have a. Can you hear us, Royce?
I see you're back. Renee's fuzzy, but you are back now. Yeah, it had the spinning clock for a period of time there.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And the car business is all about relationships. I haven't gotten a job where I've applied for a job in 15 years, right? It's all about who you know. So over that time period, I have hundreds and hundreds of dealer contacts, whether it's a general manager, a finance manager, sales manager, even some salespeople that you kind of just stay in contact with on a kind of 30,000 foot level. So from that, once basically they wanted me to move to Cleveland, Ohio to have a territory, and I was living in Miami, my wife said, "You're moving to Cleveland. I'm not moving to Cleveland." Right?
Hey, hold on, Russ. Try. I don't know if you're hitting the desk or whatever, but your phone or something keeps shaking the screen.
Yeah, it was probably the best.
Yeah, go ahead.
So from there, that's when I had done an assignment at Michael Jordan Nissan. The director at that time was Kevin Hooker. Me and him kind of formed a very good rapport with one another. So I decided to move to North Carolina at that time with the job of finance manager at Michael Jordan Nissan. I worked there for 8 years. as a finance manager. And from there, I went to Sport Durst and worked there for just under 2 years. So here in North Carolina, I've done finance for essentially a total of 10 years. And when you do that, you know, it gives you a very deep understanding of credit, loan to value, debt to income, things along those lines, things that determine whether you can get a car, whether you can't get a car. Also understanding the marketing aspect of it, from a bait and switch, a price leader ad, the things that they kind of do to the public. The biggest analogy I like to tell people is, you know, we all know we eat hot dogs, but we have no idea how they made. And it is so much behind the scenes that goes on in every dealership in America.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of those things are not in the customer's best interest. I'll say that. Yes, the vast majority of those things.
So let's get to it. So
right.
For somebody, well, how can I put it? My co-host, she likes to use the word scam or scammers. So I know earlier you said, what did you say about you ain't trying to sell nobody? Get that whole spiel?
Well, yeah, no. And I guess it kind of, what prompted that was me and your text correspondence early in the day. It's kind of got my wheels turning a little bit. But essentially, I'm purely trying to provide a service for people that, one, are intimidated by car dealerships, two, don't want to spend hours and hours from a stress standpoint, and three, save some money. Because if you know certain keywords, certain hot buttons, certain terminology to use, that's what ultimately allows you to be able to negotiate the deal in your favor versus in their favor. So selling something is not something I have a desire to do anymore. If so, I would still be a finance manager, you know, if I wanted to sell someone something or convince someone to do something that they don't want to do. It's purely me providing a service that I know has value, and it's up to you as an individual to deem if it has value for you or not. Yeah.
So essentially, if I were looking to hire would you call yourself a mediator or a third party go-between?
The business is Total Vehicle Services. That's why TVS is near my name there. So you can use the term negotiator. You can use the term go-between. Whichever term that you prefer is acceptable and accurate.
Or I would call relationship manager, right? Because you're going to manage that relationship.
Absolutely.
So a person like me who I love to negotiate, but when it comes to cars, I don't want to deal with it. I don't know why the process is so long. And let's just say I don't know all of the fees that are, that I'm paying for, or I should not be paying for. What would be the process of hiring you? What would be some of the questions that you would ask me first?
Well, from a consumer standpoint, it's just a matter of what type of vehicle are you trying to buy? And, you can oftentimes say one specific vehicle, but in reality, you should have a little bit more of an open mind. I want an SUV, or I want a sedan, or I want this particular brand, right? That
so someone should come to you with at least like 3 options, maybe, and different.
That would be ideal. It would give you a much better opportunity to accomplish your goal.
Okay.
For sure.
So walk us through your plan.
Continue to walk me through if I'm reaching out to you.
Right. So you, Rene, are calling. You are in the market to buy a vehicle. You want to get a vehicle, say, in the next 30 days, let's say, or the next 2 weeks, whatever that your desired time frame is. And like you said, you're a person that does like to negotiate in life, but you don't like to negotiate at the car dealership, right? You break out in hives even thinking about it, right? So you say, okay, well, let me call Royce. The fee for the service is $250. You only pay a portion of that up front. So I understand that I'm not wasting my time and wasting my relationship's time as well.
Absolutely.
Because that's a real key component in it all. So you have your couple list of vehicles. Also, do you have a budget? right? Do you have a budget from a monthly payment standpoint? Are you paying actual liquid cash where you're getting a home equity line, you've saved up your money, or however that may be? Or will a lot of people say I'm paying cash, but they have a prearranged loan with state employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in their mind, they're paying cash, but you're borrowing money from the bank, right?
Right.
So I would want to know, how are you going to execute this purchase from that standpoint? Because that will determine, are we negotiating the cash price? Are we negotiating a monthly payment? Are we negotiating a combination of them? So those would be the initial questions that I would kind of ask and want to know. And just what your ultimate goal is in getting the vehicle, like I said, from a monetary standpoint. Yeah.
Now, would your price increase if depending on the car? Like if we were looking more towards a luxury vehicle?
Absolutely not. It's a flat fee for $250, whether you want to buy a Hyundai Accent or if you want to buy a Maybach.
Okay.
I know a general manager that runs Fayetteville, Mercedes-Benz of Fayetteville, and I know the general manager that runs the Hyundai dealership, right, as an example. So, no, the cost of the car, you're going to ultimately be paying for it and driving it. So that's up to you. Yeah.
So how much could you save? Well, we're not going to have to give a exact number, but around the lowest to the highest, about how much do you think you could save a person?
So, that is a very open-ended question,
right?
And a very variable question. What I will kind of give you is a couple of real life experiences that I've had in the recent past. So my uncle wanted a Dodge Ram, and he had contacted me when I was still working at the dealership level at that time to buy the car, but we never could get the type of exact truck that he wanted for the exact monetary value, so forth and so on. And he lives in St. Augustine, Florida. So he ended up going to a dealership, I believe, in Jacksonville or Orlando. But I said, well, when you're in the dealership, I said, give me a call before you sign the paperwork. So he found his vehicle, so forth, and he negotiated his deal, and then he gave me a call. So when he called me, the first thing I told him, I said, well, take a picture of the purchase order, that breaks down everything that is inclusive of your car price. We've all seen them. So in this particular instance, it was what did they call it? I think it was Performance for Life was the name of the package. Essentially, a lot of dealerships put what they call addendum onto the price. The car can be $25,000. They'll put an addendum on it for $1,595. In this case, the addendum was window tint and some type of theft deterrent product, if I remember correctly. This was about
like a kill switch or something.
Yeah, it had like a tracking mechanism in it, where if you had your car stolen, it was a third party that could find it. Kind of like old school LoJack a little bit, I guess, which would kind of be the thing. And of course, when you're negotiating, you have to have it. Yeah, you have to have it. It's already on the vehicle, so forth and so on. But in reality, there's very few things that you truly have to have in that sense, right? Yeah. It's a matter of getting the point across to them and explaining to them that that I know what you know, type of thing. And so I basically just got on the phone with his salesperson. Salesperson couldn't handle it, so he put me on the phone with the sales manager, and we got that $1,595 taken off of his vehicle, right? So that was saved him $1,600 basically, right? Yeah. From talking for 10 or 15 minutes on the phone with the sales manager.
Look at that, $250 saved him
right
over $1,000.
There you go. So yeah, his net profit in that scenario was what, $1,350 on the positive. On the positive. Now, keep in mind, say you're financing the vehicle, that $1,350 would affect your monthly payment if you're doing a 72-month, which is a 6-year loan term, which is the most common loan term in the industry. Depending on interest, of course, but that would affect your payment by about $25 to $30. So if you make 72 payments of $30, I'm just doing quick math in my head, that's $2,160.
Right.
So yes, it saved him that from the sales price, but over the life of the loan, it's going to save him in excess of $2,000.
That's very true. That's very true.
So that was a real life example. Another one that I think I shared with Leon before was I don't know if she's my wife's cousin or family friend, whatever that it may be. She just bought the brand new electric Mercedes last year.
Yeah, and Mercedes has a lot of hidden incentives that people don't know about.
Yeah, and this dealership was one of the dealerships that did not charge an addendum. She was buying the car at a pretty good price. She was happy with the price she was paying for the vehicle. But again, she knows I've been in the car business essentially my whole life. So, and I didn't even know she was buying the car. I didn't even have this conversation with her ahead of time. She just called me when she was in the finance office and said, Royce, I'm in the finance office and they're charging me 4.9% interest, that's what they call a subvented rate from the manufacturer. Essentially, the manufacturer, in this case, Mercedes-Benz Financial, is buying down the prime rate from the treasurer and selling it at a discounted rate to the consumer to incentivize them to buy the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the rate was. And she was like, man, I just didn't think I would have to pay this high of an interest rate with this vehicle. So what I told her to do, I said, well, send me a picture of the callback. So anytime you're buying a car, they have what is an approval from the bank, a callback from the bank that details how much you're financing, who you are, how long the loan term is, what the interest rate is, so forth and so on. So she sends me a picture of the callback. But what Mercedes does, they didn't print the interest rate on the callback. They print from tier 1 being the best to tier 5 being the worst. So, which is driven by credit, right? The better the credit, the better the tier. So she was tier 1 in this scenario, and she was buying she was financing $102,000. And I want to say her payment was going to be right at $2,500 if I remember right. And so when I saw the callback, it didn't have the interest rate on it. It just said the tier. So I was kind of blind a little bit as far as giving her the right information. And I pride myself in, I don't say something unless I know that it's right.
Mm-hmm.
I have to turn that TV down. So I called my buddy over at Mercedes-Benz of Fayetteville, and I said, Scott, gave him the whole scenario. He pulled it up. He's like, what tier is it? I said, it's tier 1. He said, what model is it? Because every model from the manufacturer, if they have a subvented rate, has a different rate for each model, each car, each loan term. It's all very specific in that way. So he said, no, man, the buy rate for that should be 2.9. And they were charging the car 4.9. So, because as a dealership, you can legally mark up the rate up to 3 points, depending upon the loan term, from what the buy rate is to the sell rate. So in this scenario, they were marking it up from 2.9 to 4.9, which once I told her that, she was very upset, was wanting to walk out of the dealership. But I said, you've spent hours negotiating this car. You want the car. They actually have brought the car in for her from another dealership for the specific color. So she had a lot invested in this process. So I just spoke to the finance manager, told him what I know, told him where I was getting it from. He was upset. He wasn't happy, but they took it down to 2.9, took her payment from $2,500 a month to $1,900 a month. So you can do the math on that, right? $600 a month times 72 months. You can do the math on that. Again, quick math in my head, that's over $13,000. And $400, $500, $600 on a monthly outgo standpoint.
Right.
So those are two recent real life experiences, I guess, to answer your question, Leon, on how much potentially can be saved. Right. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
Now, would you work with customers that were looking just to lease?
Leasing is very different. Okay. So there's not really interest in leasing. It is and it isn't. It's what they call a money factor. A money factor, it's a formula to convert the money factor into interest, which I won't get into right now because it's very complicated. But most manufacturers are allowed to mark up that rate, what they call 0.4. So if the subvented money factor is 0.0003, they can settle for 0.0007. And again, all of that increases the monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can potentially save money on that if they are marking up the rate. But where you would potentially save more money by dealing with me is I could negotiate the sales price for you. Same thing where there's an addendum on the car, whether they're selling you the car for above market value. So yes, you could save money in that scenario as well. It is just a little bit more convoluted.
Gotcha.
Yes. But you leasing a car would not deter me from allowing you to hire me, and it would also not deter you from receiving any monetary benefit.
Okay.
Yeah, you would definitely receive the benefit of lack of stress. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So audience, we are here with, I call him Royce the Closer. So Royce, with you doing this, there's no way you can ever go back to a dealership, right?
What do you mean?
Are your plans well, what I mean is, will you ever go back? Will you ever go back to a car dealership?
I very rarely speak in absolutes, right?
Okay.
Because if a perfect situation arose and they were willing to pay me enough money, sure I would. My intent is not to, but I understand what you're saying now. You're saying because if I expose these trade secrets, let's say, why would a dealership want to hire me again?
Exactly.
They would, because again, you generate income even as a manager. I was 100% commission. You get paid zero salary. So if I'm getting a commission on the low end as a finance manager, you got paid out at 12%, on the high end, 16%. But that means 78% is going, or 78% is going to them, right? Or 74% is going to them. So as a dealership standpoint, it all goes back to revenue. So you can be a person that can generate revenue from them, they'll still hire you. They would. But it would be tricky depending upon what stores I've done this service in, how upset that I may have made somebody, things along those lines. But it wouldn't alone preclude me from going back, because you got to think it's over 5,000 dealerships in America.
That's
over
very
5,
true. What's one line item when looking at when you're purchasing a car that you, or if you want to share, or if you don't, that you don't feel it's necessary to the buyer?
I mean, the only one I'll speak on is the one I kind of spoke on the addendum. If it's something that they're telling you that's already on the car, that isn't on the car, or something that they're telling you that you have to have, that in reality you oftentimes don't have to have. So, that is something that I think I would more so provide to the person that has hired me versus revealing all the magician tricks, I said, if that makes any sense.
That's fair. That's fair. We kind of see that, right? With all of the different, you can't leave here until you download OnStar, or you can't leave here until you download Sirius XM radio, even though I don't even know XM radio, never had it in a prior car. So why do I need it now? I mean, when there's Bluetooth and Apple Music, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And a lot of that nowadays, believe it or not, the manufacturer forces the dealership to do it. Basically, essentially, they measure the percentage of new cars you sold as opposed to percentage of these things that you've activated. And if your dealership isn't on a certain level of the percentage of these activations for some of these services, then your scorecard, for lack of a better word, with the manufacturer is not as high as it should be. And that will affect your allocation, the ability to get cars. That will affect some promotions that they'll allow you to participate in. So it can have a lot of negative effects for the dealer. Yeah, it really can. Yeah.
So with you starting this is something new. Have you helped somebody yet? Have you had your first client yet?
No, not from a pay standpoint. Again, I just kind of came up with the idea. I want to say last month. Me and you were kind of talking because I have a lot more time now. Because working in a car dealership, you're working 50 hours a week. I
Yeah.
leave the house at 8:30 in the morning. I come home at 9 o'clock at night. And as a finance manager, I'm the last person you see. So if a salesman gets a customer at 8, we close at 9. I can be there till 10:30, right? So you're spending a lot of time. So you don't have time to think or act or even a willingness to want to do anything else but your job at that point in time. So I've helped countless people from a family standpoint and a friend standpoint just by doing it for them. Like I gave you examples. I probably helped hundreds of people over the course of my lifetime. Didn't charge them anything, just based on relationships, friends, family, me knowing that they have a tight budget and trying to save them money, just kind of doing the right thing, for lack of a better word. The idea of the total vehicle services is a new idea for me. And I came up with it, one, because I really think that it can have a lot of benefit for a lot of people. And I have the ability to be able to do it. So, no, I have not advertised. I have not mentioned it to anyone beyond you, honestly, Leon, and my wife, just kind of talking to her about the idea. This is the first forum at all that I've even put it out to the public, I guess we'll say, or put it on the board or explained anything in depth like this. So you may be my first client because I know you want to act your MDX at some point. So who knows? You may be the first one.
You want a car, Leon? You looking at a new car? Huh?
Well, I know my daughter she's going to eventually have to get a car, so I'm gonna have to give her. Well, I guess give her mine. Somebody gonna have to get a new car somewhere. so yeah, in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not ready yet, but my lease is up next year.
Okay.
In April. So
There you go.
And I will be looking. I'm not one for the whole car dealership. I just don't understand how it takes longer to buy a car than it does to close on a house. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Average time spent in the car dealership is 3 hours and 48 minutes to buy a car nationwide.
That's crazy. And it takes maybe like less than an hour to close on a house. And once
3 hours and 48 minutes is the average time. I've seen people at the dealership come in at 9 in the morning, not leave till 9 at night.
That's me. I read every single piece of paper.
Yeah. Like they're working at the dealership for the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so let's back up. You reading your pieces of paper, you're going to still, do those things. My whole idea behind it is I basically will do the legwork and be able to say, Rene, go to this dealership, ask for John when you get there. You already know the price. We've already, how much you're going to put down or how much you're going to pay a month or how much you're going to pay for the car. So you just get to the dealership, look at the car, make sure it's living up to the expectation that you have in your mind, and basically go directly to the finance office and sign your paperwork. But if you're a reader, you want to read the line, every line, you want to still do that because I'm not going to be there with you. I don't, it's no need for me. Now, in a rare one-off situation for certain people that aren't as, what would be the word? Not knowledgeable, but aren't smart, for lack of a better word.
Or,
confident, or
not confident, yeah.
Need their hand held. They don't feel comfortable even with all of that done on the front side. I may go with you now. If I'm going with you, I'll probably have to charge you something additional for my time if I'm physically up to getting my car and wait my gas and drive there and do all of that. But that's not the essence of it. But I would be able to do that in a case-by-case basis as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely utilize your services because I just I read everything because one, from a compliance perspective, I have to, and it reassures that I'm making the best financial. I'm being fiscally responsible with my money.
Yeah, and I'll share something. It's so funny, and I guess it just kind of pops in my mind. Some of the smartest people. I've dealt with the provost at UNC. He makes $50,000 a month. And, you would think that's a very smart, savvy person, but we made $2,300 profit on that person, right? So intelligence doesn't always lead to negotiation or saving money.
Oh no, not at all. But it just helps me confirm
Makes
that.
you feel better about it. No, I get it. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
But I'm just, when you said that, it's made me kind of think, because I can tell you're an intelligent person, but it's weird how that works sometimes from the dealership standpoint, because it's a matter of like the whole thing about a car. It's an emotional sale.
Yeah.
It's a house is less emotional than the car in a lot of ways, because you're physically behind the wheel. You see it, you touch it, you feel it, you smell it, and you get excited. And, oh, I have to have this car, right? So it's a very emotional thing. And as salespeople, we leverage that emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
They leverage that emotion. We train, we talk about it, and have meetings about it every day on basically the analogy that my GM gave me. I'll never forget it. When a customer comes in that lot, they have a bull ring on their nose. You grab that nose and you control them and take them everywhere that you want them to be, with them thinking that they're going everywhere that they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a technique behind it. And again, when I say that, nothing works for everybody, but you play to the 80%. You train for the 80%, right? 10% of the people are never going to listen to you. 10% of the people are just going to come in and, what we say, lay down and just buy whatever you put in front of them. It's the 80% that you deal with, that you have to control, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wasn't somebody that didn't, what are 3 red flags when going to buy a car that people should look for?
Yeah.
Three what?
Red
3
flags.
Red flags. And you mean from a ethics standpoint, from a car being, quote unquote, a good car, a bad
I would
car?
say just walking into the dealership, right? You browse, you walk, you're interested, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would a red flag be? I mean, if it's too easy, right? If it's too easy, we all, you left money on the table, right? If it just goes that easy, that smooth, I always say that is one thing that you want to look at. Also, if it's only one car that they're trying to sell you, this, I know you came in for this one, but this is the one that for you. No, you need this one. It's usually that it's a special bonus on that car for the salesperson, right? That's why he keeps stirring you to this car. You wanted a blue one with this trim level, but he's stirring you to this black one with this trim level, right? And saying you can save you X amount of dollars, or however, that get you approved better if you have a credit challenge or what have you. If they're basically narrowing the vehicle focus, is something that you want to always be mindful and cognizant of. And it happens every day. Every day someone came in and you ask them what kind of car they want. I'll buy anything but a red car, and they leave the dealership in a red car. Every day in America it happens. I promise you it does. And people don't think so, but it does, because you get control. You get that person where you need them to be and convince them why they need this red one, and they leave in this red one. So things like that. But there's a lot of ethical dealerships as well. What would be another red flag, I guess? You tell me, what have you go
ahead. Now that's probably, you've mentioned ethical or non-ethical probably once or twice. So what are the non-ethical things that may go on that customers should be aware of? If you can speak on it. If not,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, like I said, some stuff, but a lot of things are, for instance, you start negotiating the price of the car, but they flip it to how you paying for it. Oh yeah, you're not paying cash, so it's really the payment that matters, right? Because if I say this car for $25,000, but the payment's $800, are you going to buy it? This is a line that you use. Probably not. But if I sell it to you for $30,000, but the payment's $600, would you buy it? Yeah. So they're basically taking the focus off the price of the car and now converting it into a payment, right? And there's a reason that we're doing this, because it's two or three factors in buying a car. You know, you have the price of the car, you have the interest rate, you have the payment, or really the three main components. And there are the subcomponents, but those are three of the main components that we kind of look at. So within that, a lot of times, then they'll just basically backdoor into the car of, okay, they're willing to pay $500 a month. So let me show them this car, and this car, because I know it can have that payment and I can sell it for whatever I want to sell it for, right? And it's going to be the payment they want, so they're going to go for it. So kind of converting it that way, taking your attention. It's like in the finance office, I can control someone with my pen and have you signing a whole contract and you don't even know what's on there because my pen has controlled you. And you think it doesn't happen? Believe me, it happens all the time. It's just certain subtle techniques that are used to be able to make you do what I want you to do.
Yeah, that whole grid line thing kills me. Please don't do the boxes.
Right.
You know, the yellow. I don't want to see that. I don't.
Right. But you know what happens. But you know what happens, right?
Oh yeah. So let me ask you this. When you talked about the three things that most people care about, right? Which is the price of the car, the payment, right? Sometimes the interest rate, but the payment kind of overrules the interest rate for some people that are not well versed in buying a car, right? They just want to know that car is going to be $350 a month, and they may have a 21.25% interest rate on a $12,000 car, right?
Yep.
So what do you do with some of that? Because you have to finagle that to make that work for a customer, right? So whatever discounting you're taking off a car, is that spread on other cars to increase the price?
No, each transaction is each transaction. But you know, from a like a new car standpoint, oftentimes a dealership will lose money to sell a new car sometimes.
Right. They make more money on used cars, right?
Yeah, sometimes we'll forecast a loss on new cars. Like over the course of the month, we have our sales meeting every Monday. The goal is to sell, let's say, 100 new cars this month, and we'll forecast a negative $500 on the front side, on the sale price. But we're forecasting $1,200 a copy on the finance side of it, right? And that goes into, some people are going to fall into, maybe get a good deal that will cause them to lose money. But either I'm going to make it up on the finance side of it, or I'm going to make it up on the next person, or there's a what they call stair step. Whereas if we hit this number of 100 cars, now the manufacturer kicks us back $300 every new car that we've sold.
Right.
So you can justify it by doing that. So, you know, it's a lot of things that go into that individual transaction, but each transaction is its own transaction.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say that. Yeah.
What are some misconceptions that a lot of car salesmen and or dealerships, you would say, have?
Well, most people think that the vast majority of people always think that they pay too much, and that's not always the case. And it's even to the point where I always say every well has a bottom, right? You can negotiate. You can say, oh, I want to pay $20,000 for this $25,000 car. First of all, where'd you come up with that number? Oh, that's what I want to pay. Okay, I want Janet Jackson, but I don't have her, right? So what you want in your mind may not be even a realistic thing. And that's something I'll always be very transparent with you. Certain things you just cannot accomplish. You just can't happen, right? But I'm sorry, what did you ask me? I want to be able to answer that. I deviated.
Janet Jackson threw you off.
Yeah. Misconceptions that most car salesmen or dealerships have.
Yeah. So everybody thinks that the dealership makes a lot of money on every car. That is one of the biggest misconceptions out there, because that is not true. Oftentimes, someone really genuinely gets a good deal. They really bought the car for behind invoice from what the dealership paid for it, and it could be because the stair step, he's hit his 90th car and he knows he can get closer to the target. Another misconception is that the salespeople will sell you a bad car knowingly. And usually as a salesperson, if you're a salesperson that's been in a dealership for any length of time, you're not, because you know you're going to have to deal with that person later. No one wants to deal with heat that they created, right? So salespeople very rarely knowingly sell you a car that has a problem. Now, the manager may know it has a problem. The used car manager may know that this car has a mechanical issue, but the salesperson oftentimes doesn't know. So
Right.
I think that's often misconception that they think the salesperson, one, has more control over the transaction than he does, and two, that they're willingly, maliciously do something bad to a customer, because that's oftentimes not the truth.
All right. So with your service, the down payment, I know you said you would be charging $250. What is the down payment? Is the whole $250 partial of that? What is
I
the
would
whole?
say you pay $100 up front, and then you
Mhm.
pay $150 once the deal is consummated.
Now,
Will you
how long do you think?
know? Oh, go ahead.
How long do you think that process would take?
Honestly, as long as you have, you're looking for a car that's readily available, right? You're not looking for something that is not on the not available. Because sometimes new models will come out and there's very limited supply, right? And if the car isn't out there, I can't build it for you. So contingent upon you're looking for a car that's quote unquote readily available. You have either good credit on your own, or you already have your credit financing set up, or you are paying cash. Theoretically, you could call me on a Monday and be buying your car on a Tuesday.
So will you, in addition, I mean, with this business, right? Because I know you said you have built a lot of contacts throughout, all over with many different dealerships. In addition to that, will you have knowledge of different discounts and different, programs? I know Mercedes, I think Mercedes and GM, they have a lot of loyalty discounts and a lot of other discounts that they offer. Or I mean, they don't kind of make it known. You kind of got to dig a little bit, but that you would be versed in or know to be able to, help additional with the price of the car as well. Because I know, speaking of Mercedes, they have like a Sam's Club discount, like a fleet discount. If you have a particular Sam's Club card, or Amex, will take off a lot of money if you have one, and different things like that. I know GM has, their supplier program if you work for a different company, and in addition to, and you can stack those. And I don't think people know that, because a lot of dealerships don't tell you that.
Some you can, some you can't.
Right.
Yeah. So those are all real programs at periods of time that you mentioned. So what you have to understand, and why oftentimes the dealer says you have to do it this month, everything from the manufacturer standpoint changes on a month-to-month basis. We get a rate sheet on the first of every month that shows what the programs are for that month. What supplier, what USAA, what, like you said, FedEx, or different places that you may work for that provides discount. That changes literally every single month, every single model. Some will carry over from month to month, but some oftentimes it doesn't. But yes, that's basically what the relationship does. Because as a manager, every month I would get this and I would have exactly what's available for this program. And as a dealer, you essentially want to use that to give to the customer, because that's not costing you any money as the dealership, right? You're kind of spending their money in that sense. But me having the relationships with all the managers, yeah, that's the first thing that we'll talk about, right? Depending upon, and again, all of that only really applies to a new car. Every now and then, if you're buying a certified pre-owned from a manufacturer, they will have some kind of incentives for a CPO car. But majority of the time it is for a new vehicle only. But 100%, yeah, those are programs that I would completely make sure that is leveraged in the customer's favor, and make them aware of it, depending upon where they work at, what they do, and how they're buying the car.
And CPOs, that's like loaner cars, right? Or no?
No, not always. So certified pre-owned, a dealership can certify virtually
or something out of a lease.
When I say any car, as long, so most manufacturers have year criteria. It has to be, and I'm giving an example, Nissan certification, for instance, it had it to be 5 model years or younger and less than 60,000 miles for most of the models. Some went up to 7 years and 75,000, but the general rule of thumb is the current model year plus 5 model years back and up to 60,000 miles. it may be a loaner car that we've done it. It may be a car that the customer traded in. It may be a car that we bought from the auction. So certifying the car, it's a cost associated with the dealer. At the last time I checked, Nissan CPO was $499, cost to the dealer in order to certify this car. But as a consumer, it gives you usually an additional warranty component, and you kind of know that you're kind of getting a better used car. But even within that, it's not always true either, because I've seen some cars CPO that, Lord, we should not have ever CPO'd that car. But they did because they owned it a certain way, and they knew they were going to have to make it attractive to be able to move that car. So as a dealer, you make an individual choice on certifying a car or not certifying a car. So I think I answered your question on that one.
I have one more question. I don't know how long you can go, but do you think AI would interfere with what you're doing, your business?
No, because this is the thing that I like to say. So even if I kind of give you certain information, one, you have to have the confidence to be able to speak about it, right? Because when you're in that environment, again, because the car's an emotional sale, you forget about it. Two, you have to have the lingo to be able to say it to the dealer where he knows you know what you're talking about, or he's not going to even pay any attention. We have conversations up in the sales tower. This customer, she thinks she knows this, and it's just in one ear, not the other. And we'll just flip it to make you feel like we're accomplishing whatever you said that you thought that you knew. But no, the key is to, you can have the knowledge, but you have to know how to utilize the knowledge. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
What do you see as since you've been in the car dealership, and of course it's evolved, right? Since
100%. A lot more compliant industry than it was years ago.
Oh yeah. And prices have evolved rather quickly, right? Since I would say 2020 or even before, right? What do you see as far as like the average car payment for the working class individual?
Well, the person's really irrelevant. I know that the national average new car payment is $526 as of 2024. That's national average car payment on a new car is $526. The average loan term is 73 months. So that's the averages. Yes, that's the average new car payment, and that is the average loan term currently as of about a year ago. But again, that doesn't mean that you're going to pay that. It's a lot of variables for each individual scenario. But that is the national average. It is $526, just like the national average is 3 hours and 48 minutes to buy a car. So those are the averages currently.
What do you feel is the best car value right now?
A good deal is what you think is a good deal. A good deal is a state of mind. It is. Yeah. It's a state of mind. I
would say that. I guess I'm looking as far as like, a car in general. Because how sometimes you hear, we've been hearing for a long time, right? Get yourself a Honda or a Toyota. That's going to last you for forever. So
you're saying from a reliability standpoint,
standpoint,
Yeah. Traditionally, Japanese cars are the most reliable cars. Domestic cars are the least reliable cars. Korean cars have came a long ways, and I guess so. An example of a Japanese car is Honda, Toyota. Toyota and Lexus are the same. Acura and Honda are the same. Honda makes Acura. Toyota makes Lexus. Nissan makes Infiniti. So your Japanese cars traditionally are, if you look at any consumer reports, they have your highest consumer reliability ratings, tend to be able to put the most miles on those individual cars. Your domestic cars are going to give you more problems per 100 historically. A Cadillac, a Chevrolet, a Buick, those cars just historically have more problems than a Japanese car does. That is an absolute true fact. Some of the worst cars you can buy right now is a Fiat, a Mini Cooper. They're just not good cars. But again, you can get a good one, but percentage based, they're just not very reliable cars. You're not going to put 200,000 miles in a Fiat without spending a lot of money repairing it over the course of time. Another thing that we haven't even talked about, but extended warranties. as a thing.
I had that written down right here.
Yeah, prepaid maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have negative connotations, but they really are beneficial for a lot of people. It can save you a lot of money. Prime example. Let's say, you're a person on a fixed income, or even if you're not on a fixed income, but you make the same amount of money, right? You're not a commission person. You make $4,000 a month. That's what you bring home. And you're buying a car that's $350 or let's say $400 a month, just for even math. And within your budget, that's really all you can afford to spend every month is about $400 on this car, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're financing the car for 6 years. That's what most people do. So, but the average warranty on the car is 3 years or 36,000 miles, whichever comes first. So you're buying this car, you plan on keeping it for the full long term, and you're fine with this $400 a month. But what happens in year 4, 5, and 6? Something goes wrong. You have a $500 repair on top of this car payment unexpectedly. That's going to probably put you in a bad position. Versus you buy the same car, you finance it for 6 years, you get a warranty on the car for 6 years or 100,000 miles, and instead of $400, it's $430 a month, right? You can much easier put in your budget that extra dollar a day than if something happens that you got to pay for at the drop of a hat that your budget does not allow for.
Right.
So that's just an example where an extended warranty really has a lot of value, right? It really can, but some people can afford to self-insure. Right. So it just depends on your individual situation in that sense. Prepaid maintenance, you're going to have to pay to maintain your car. You're going to have to get an oil change and entire rotation every either 3,000, 5,000, or 10,000 miles, depending upon the make. So it's really a mathematical equation of if I'm going to pay $125, I have to get maintenance 4 times per year. So if you do that math, you're going to spend $500 a year in that scenario, or you can include a prepaid maintenance plan that covers your maintenance for 3 years and it changes your payment by $10 per month. So that's only $120 a year to have the oil changes already paid for up front versus you spend $500 a year getting your oil changes on your own, right? So those are just some examples where it can be beneficial to get those ancillary products. But the key in that is buying them at the appropriate cost, because just like the car is negotiable, all of those products are negotiable.
Gap insurance worth it?
I've never bought a car and not bought Gap.
Okay.
Gap to me is just one of those things. It's like I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Like I carry a gun everywhere I go, because if you don't have it and you need it, it's too late. Because Gap you can never add after the fact, right? So when you don't want to buy Gap, or when it doesn't make sense to buy Gap, if you're putting down 20% of the value of the car, you don't need Gap, because the amount that you owe, as long as you're not paying a really high interest rate, you should never owe more than it's worth in that scenario. But the average person puts down $500 and no money down. And if you don't have Gap and that car is in an accident, whether someone rear-ends you, T-bone somebody, whatever that it is, the insurance is paying $15,000, you owe $19,000. So you either one, got to write a check for $4,000, 2, keep making payments on the car even though it's gone, or 3, it would be a repossession. Or you pay an extra $15 a month to have Gap insurance for the full life of the loan. So me in the business, I've never bought a car and not bought Gap, because I don't put a lot of money down, because time value of money will teach you money today is worth more than money tomorrow. So, I always keep my cash in that sense. So yes, but again, you got to make sure you're buying it right. I've sold people Gap for $1,500 before. And the cost is not that, I promise you.
Right.
So again, yes, Gap traditionally for most people is a wise thing to have, but you want to make sure you're buying it at the right price.
Right.
Yeah.
So with your business, is there anything we missed that you want to share with us, with the audience? Anything more?
No, like I said, the biggest thing to me is just I know the monetary is what a lot of us stand on, and that is an extremely important thing, but I don't want to underscore or undersell the aspect of the convenience and not having to spend the time and not having to get yourself stressed and get yourself in this combative experience. I don't think you can put a price tag on that, in my opinion.
I agree.
Time's the only irreplaceable commodity that we have. They print money every day, right? So just keep that in mind as you kind of enter into an agreement with me. Yes, I'm going to make sure I negotiate the deal as to the best of my ability to get the car at the best possible price. But time is another thing you want to take into account. And also make sure people aren't getting offended, because if you're trying to buy a $30,000 car and you want a $350 payment and you got no money down, it's not going to happen. I always will tell people it's math, not magic, so you just, and I'll be able to tell you that though, because I know math really well, and I know how the financial payment, how much it should be and all of those parts of it. So just make sure you're being realistic and not having beer budget and champagne taste. Right.
I mean, we always have that, right?
Everybody can't make that happen for you. Yeah, I can't make that happen.
But let me ask you this, speaking of champagne taste and a beer budget, do you also have relationships with places who work with customers that have challenged credit, such as your Carvanas? Yep. What is that?
Never bought a car from Carvana. I'll tell you that. Never.
Okay.
Why you say it like that?
My friend, she's an avid Carvana type person. I had a Range Rover. I sold it to Carvana, but that's as far as I'll go. I don't.
Yeah, selling a car to them is fine, but buying a car, I'll tell you why. Your friend may have been fortunate and had a good experience, but Carvana, they'll buy a car from a customer, never service it, never do anything to it, clean it up, and just put it up for sale.
Yeah.
Don't change the brakes, don't change the tires, don't do nothing.
She's had that experience twice, but some people like to go back.
Right.
I don't spend the block on X's. And I'm not doing that with a car.
But that's the biggest thing to me. Yeah, you have no recourse in Carvana either. You can't go up and talk to a person if something's bad. You're trying to call on the phone, right? You want to be able to see someone, God forbid, if you do have a car and have a problem. So, one, you don't know the servicing on the car. They're not held to the same standards of a dealership from a reconditioning standpoint. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of lawsuits and challenges with Carvana in getting cars registered.
Yeah, they've had some ethical, issues.
They can't register the car because they've never really gotten the title, or they don't know this state's registering guidelines, things of that nature. So the juice isn't worth the squeeze to me to ever buy a car from Carvana. I'm not saying you couldn't buy a car and have a good car, but the chances are not in your favor.
Okay. Yeah. What about CarMax or drive time? Is it drive time?
Drive time. You go to drive time when you can't buy a car from a regular dealership. That's when you buy a car from drive time. If you cannot buy a car at a regular dealership.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, they're like it's like a fancy buy here, pay here, basically.
Listen, I have friends of all walks of life, so I'm just, I'm
catering. No, I get it, but I would be able to deal with them, potentially in a different way. I also have a friend of mine that owns his own used car dealership, and he lends his own money. So I have different avenues to even deal with credit in that sense, right? If your credit still is too bad to even go to a dealership, I could, set you up with him. And I know him for over 10 years. He's not going to sell you a bad car if I bring him to you in that way. So credit is not something that will deter me. And when I was working on the dealership level, I was what they call the special finance manager, because I'm really good at that part of it.
You seem like you're up to the challenge. Like you like a good challenge. Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I did. Like I said, I'm tired of that stage of my life, but I'm definitely always willing to work.
Mm.
Yeah.
And look, y'all, go ahead.
For an hour and a half.
Yeah. Look, y'all hear Royce the closer. He has the ins and outs. He knows the ins and outs of the car dealership. He's finance. What would you call it again? What would you say you were?
I'm gonna call him a finance guru, because he knows the calculations. He knows the behind the scenes of what's being charged. He knows what it costs, the actual cost, and he's able to negotiate that. And it sounds like he's good at calculating these back end costs and interest rates and different point systems that we're not privy to.
Absolutely right. Yes.
So
a lot of man behind the curtain stuff that goes on.
Yeah. I like it.
And y'all hear he keeps saying that, so he knows what he's talking about.
Right. I think this is $250 that would be well spent looking over the actual sales price of the car. So immediate, savings, and also savings throughout the term of the loan.
Yes.
So why not pay this money, which would save you, thousands of dollars, depending on what you're looking at, right down the line.
Yeah, and also too, I have no vested interest in helping any specific dealership, right? I'm not tied to, you should get a warranty or you should buy this. Like, I'll have a realistic conversation on your situation and advise you to the best of my ability. Well, ultimately, you're going to make those decisions, but I will have a realistic conversation with you based upon your personal situation.
See, I like that. I want to give you my price. I want to give you my payment. I'm going to tell you I have excellent credit. And I just, I want to tell you the type of car. And I just want to give you that and go to work. And then you just tell me, Rene, go pick up your car at such and such dealer. It'll be ready at 7. I don't want, don't call me because I'll block you. Don't text me because I'm going to block you. I don't want to do all of that. I want to give that to you. And then I just, you said really, I would prefer the car to show up in my driveway.
Oh, it's funny you say that. So also too, I want everybody to know, dealership will ship a car anywhere in America.
Yes.
You can buy a car from anywhere in America and have it show up at your driveway. You really can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I want. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Keep that in mind too. You don't necessarily even ever have to go into the dealership as well, or have to buy a car that's here theoretically. So that is another thing that I can offer as well that I didn't even think about until now.
Right. Yeah. So how can people get in contact with you? Social media, phone number, email, website?
Yep. So as we say, we're in the virgin stages, and I have invested no money in it. Right. I have my knowledge in it. So at this point, and my wife was talking to me about it, saying I need to get a website and I need to get this and that. I have a business
LLC and all this. Leon didn't talk you into it.
So I do have my LLC. I do have that. So that is set up. You would put the money into my business account, not my personal account. But from a contact standpoint, I have a Facebook like anyone else. My Facebook name is Royce, my first name, and my middle name, both, Beau. My cell phone is 305-778-3164. So you can reach out to me on Facebook via Messenger. That's the only social media platform that I have. You can call my cell phone or you can email me. My email is the same thing. My first name, Royce, my middle name, Bo, @gmail.com. So those would be the 3 points of contact that I would provide for someone. Yeah.
And you saying that, we need to get you an Instagram that says Royce the Closer. Let's go be his name, Royce the Closer. Okay. And we go put up some clips of you giving some information.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna be his customer in April.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get this. Y'all have to school me on the social media and set me up on that because I'm 48 years old. I didn't grow up with the social media and I haven't quite embraced it in that manner.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, it was good. We're going to definitely get you some customers. Me and Rene, I'm most definitely, when I go, I know sometime soon I'm going to have to get me a new car.
Absolutely.
I'll be a customer.
All right. Sounds
I'm
very good.
My lease is up April 1.
Absolutely. So keep in mind, like I said, everything's month to month when you talk about a new car from an incentive. So when you come with lease and Rene, just make sure you're doing it from a time standpoint before your lease is up. Because oftentimes, on your step, from a personal conversation, usually when you're within the last 3 to 6 months of your lease, there's oftentimes programs where you can get out of it early if you want. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I know. I tried to sell it.
Yeah, sometimes you can make money on leases, but those times are usually over. It was a period of time a few years ago where you could actually make money.
Yeah, GM said absolutely not. We want our money. So
you really can't. Right now, that's not a realistic thing.
I did look into it. Mm-hmm. I'm good for selling a car. I don't care. I don't have emotional attachments to it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And all I'll say is, also, don't contact me if you went to every dealership in America, try to buy a car, get your head and beat against the wall, and now before you give up, let me give Royce a chance. Let's do it on the front side, not on the back side.
Yeah, you don't want all that stress on you. You know.
There you have it, people. Make sure just contact him first and let him do the work for you.
Absolutely. Yes, you'll have a much better chance of success in that way.
All right, there you have it with Royce the Closer. we'll see you on the next episode of the MPL4 podcast. And remember, seize the opportunity to grasp your dreams.
I love it. Very good. I appreciate the time this evening. I wish everybody a happy 4th of July, and be safe out there in those streets.